What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy, and on this episode of the podcast, I want to, dive into one around the idea of energy being spent and how this can impact our lives overall. And I think that really this just stemmed from me seeing a quote during the week. And the quote was, "Energy spent on surviving is not energy that can be used to evolve." When I saw this earlier in the week, it really made me take a second to sit back and start to consider it, I guess. I think it beautifully captures the trap that we get caught in. And it's not a purposeful trap either. It kind of just develops for a lot of people. And I would say one that not so many people are aware of. But the thing is, how would you be aware of it when you think about it as well? And I'll go into it in more detail what I mean by that. But the actual nature of it implies that you wouldn't be aware of it because you're in this survival mode. You're not thinking about other factors outside of that. You're just trying to get through the day. And our brain and our conscious mind is so concerned with that, getting through the days, that we can't actually progress or evolve in ways. You become defensive or you become reactive, and in a place that it feels like every time that you take 2 steps forward, you actually take 3 steps back, and you feel like you're at a bit of a loss. Movement might cause a flare-up causes freezing. Every time we try to work on our way out of it, we fall back into the same position again. You don't know what's going wrong, and you choose to not make it worse. You choose to just avoid everything, and the body is too focused on trying to get you through the day. That's really what's happening here, and it starts to consume all of our energy. Now, when we're, looking at this not just with the lens of an injury, I want to look at this in the lens of how nature responds to this too. And it's something that, if you've ever read the book Selfish Gene, if you've ever read anything from Richard Dawkins where he talks about evolutionary biology, you can see how it is so common in nature, and it's as common as it is in our lives. To think that a bird in a scarce environment searching for food has no energy to, for example, grow larger wings to travel further. Now, if they were able to travel further, they may be able to find new land that is populated, that is, will help them to thrive more, maybe more resources in it. But what's happening is they're actually restricted by this necessity to survive. And therefore, in that case, they have to gain more energy before it can give itself the opportunity to evolve, to expand its area and actually look to thrive. Now, I use that example because I want to talk about how nature itself, it's a pattern that crops up consistently. And the quote is one that we can apply to our own lives. Now, we look at energy in many different forms. You can look at it from different perspectives, of a physical, an emotional, a spiritual perspective. And we should really be addressing it as such. But the one problem that many run into is this lack of energy and this lack of resource. But the thing is that we're in a time now that evolution from lack of resource should be, you would expect it to be, if you were in a Western country, less likely. But it honestly depends, and this is where the catch is, on the type of resource that you need. For one, we may need to address our nutrition. Are we losing an energy to evolve out of our current situation, whether that be limited by pain or limited by fatigue, just due to the poor nutritional choices or lack of nutrition? When I take someone on board and we start working with them, and they've been dealing with, it could be anything, any type of chronic condition or chronic injury or chronic disease in a lot of ways, this is one of the first things that we look at, and it's a part of rehab that's never considered. Now, I'm no nutritionist, and I often say to people when they're jumping on board, if you're looking for real in-depth nutritional advice, I have people that I can pass you on to. But that doesn't mean that we don't look at just the basics, the macros, the calories in, calories out, the nutrition on day-to-day stuff. because it does, this lack of nutrition and poor nutrition can have a lasting effect on the body. And you need to be aware how one day's poor nutrition can be followed by the next day's increase in pain. Really simple one. Or watch how lack of sleep one evening can actually follow an increase in pain and fatigue the next day. And this is where we get into that idea of when we're in survival mode, we can't really be in a state that we can make significant change in our life, because the necessity to survive outweighs the necessity to change. And it's a funny balance. Even if changing will help us to survive, like long term, we can't take that resource and use it too early, or else obviously if you can't survive, you're in a pretty difficult position. So as I say, watch how sleep one evening follows an increase in pain and fatigue the next. Difficulty managing emotions the next day. Therefore, before we really make change, we must put ourselves in a position that the change can actually be made. And an example of that is, there's a really interesting paper that I was looking at when I was doing my thesis of how negative experiences are more likely to be recorded when we sleep under 6 hours per night. And that makes a lot of sense. Think about it for a second. Let's say cognitive processing, emotional processing, all of that happens when you sleep at the different stages of sleep as well. Memory, thoughts, your emotional response, all of that is more, let's say, when you're in a REM sleep state, that's what is prioritized. When you're in a deep sleep state, it's more physical recovery. And the majority of our, let's say, REM sleep happens between the 7th and 8 hours of sleep. So if you're sleeping under 6 hours per night, you can see how the body would prioritize first off getting the negative stuff out of the way, getting that process first, so then that you can process the more positive experiences after that. Why would that be more important, you might ask? Well, it's a lot more important for your body to remember where a poisonous berry is than it is to remember an enjoyable time that you've had with friends. One prioritizes survival, the other is prioritizing experience or evolution. And this is why you put so much focus, when someone jumps on board with me, this is why we put so much focus into helping you with your sleep. In all of our programs, whether that's the Back Pain Back to Exercise program or one-to-one select program, we put a huge focus on that. And if you've been a poor sleeper for your entire life, that's okay. We just chip away and we look to make small changes each week. We're not looking to get you from, if you've had 4 or 5 hours sleep your entire life, there's a low chance that we're going to get you up to 8 hours sleep in 2 weeks. But over a 6-month period, we can keep chipping away, improving the quality, improving the quantity, improving the quality, improving the quantity. And you'll find that everything will start to improve over time when you can implement this. The other side of it is that just putting energy into trying to improve this and having different strategies and tactics to do it makes it so much easier than just going at it alone and trying to do it and not knowing what was working and not knowing what's making it worse. So this idea of improving sleep, it builds on everything else after. It's one of the foundations. It's like the lowest hanging fruit. And honestly, this is something that we look at straight away, is always what is the lowest hanging fruit that you can make gains from? Because you're going to have huge results at the start from doing this. So that is your nutrition, that is your sleep, that's your movements, your response to pain. And then only after we've improved this do we turn our focus to more of the intricacies of the issue that you're dealing with. From an emotional standpoint, we look towards fear. And this is one I think that is really missed out from a lot of people, is that we have to assess it from an emotional, you have to look at it from a physical, your emotional, and your spiritual. Because we have to, as I was saying, energy comes in different forms, and we need to address it as such. One problem may run into it, it could be a lack of energy or a lack of resource. If you're looking at a physical problem, as we were saying, that's where we address the nutrition, that's where we address the sleep. But the sleep kind of also comes over into the emotional. And then as you start to work into the emotional, you can see that there's spiritual aspects that need to be addressed also. It's the trifecta, you could say, in a lot of ways. This is, I guess, as I was saying, it's the lowest hanging fruit. But what does it mean to actually work then on an emotional standpoint? It means that if you start looking towards fear, and you can see what fear does to the body and what it does to the conscious mind, then you will start to understand why this is something that needs to be addressed. I talk about fear all the time. People ask me, do you say that is pain all in your head? No, it's not. Pain is, you can feel pain. It's a physical, it's a neurological basis, let's say, but you feel pain. Okay. But there's certain elements within your mind, because your mind is part of the central nervous system, that can cause pain to increase more. Okay. Just because it puts us on alert, it's where our focus goes. And that's why I bring it back to the quote of energy spent on surviving is not energy that can be spent or used to evolve. When the body is in a constant state of fear, what happens is we become reactive, become very stressed, and you become ready to fight or to run. Your heart rate increases, and here is the catch. You begin to see everything as a threat or everything as dangerous. And this in its essence is survival mode. If everything is dangerous, you have to naturally go to a survival state. And you will make decisions based off of that. And that's why the threat needs to be addressed. When you're enveloped completely in fear, everything around you is scary. When you don't know what's causing your pain, every single movement feels dangerous. Anything that you do feels like it's going to make it worse. And that's why we have to address fear, is that you need to understand what's going on a bit more before you can change this. And when people come to me and they say, I need to get over this issue, I've had it for 5 years, I would say, okay, perfect. But this is a journey. This isn't something that I can just give you one exercise and you're going to be good to go. This is a journey of understanding what's going on. What's a good pain versus what's a bad pain? When should you push in? When should you pull back? What do you do after the pain kicks up? What do you do to reduce the likelihood that it kicks up before? And in this case, we have to challenge a lot of beliefs, because the majority of people that come to me have been given so many different diagnoses for the same issue. MRIs, consultants, injections, inflammation, hips offline, degenerating or bulging discs. Or maybe, from a different cohort, people have come and they're just lost for what way to go next. They've been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, or they've been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and just really afraid to do the wrong thing. They don't want to just drop life. They want to continue down the path that they're improving everything and continuing to be independent and continuing to live a life that's active and fulfilling. But they're worried and they're afraid and they're fearful that they could do something that's going to set them off. And the thing is that it is completely understandable. And naturally it's going to be worrying. But it's okay. You'll need time to process and you'll need time for space. During that time, I want you to be conscious of what way you're pointing your compass. Are you moving it in a direction that you want, towards a lifestyle that you're interested in? Or are you just letting it go by itself? And do you need to change? Is the direction you're going in right now the one that you want to go in? Because once we're moving in the right direction, it's a lot easier to make decisions that align with where we want to be. And I always say to people, what way do you want to be in 6 months' time, a year's time? Because when you start to understand that, then spiritually, emotionally, physically, your decisions will start to align also. Okay, so you can make a change in your life. If you feel like you're stuck in this survival mode, if you feel like you need to make a change, but you don't know what's causing you to be stuck, well then it's important to start to make decisions that will help you out. Now, one thing that you want to be careful of, and I talk about this in my most recent podcast just before this one, is like, don't let a bad decision burn you twice. Okay, maybe you've chosen to go and work with, I don't know, some practitioner, and they've given you all this mechanical basis to your pain, and they've done cracks and they've tried to reset your body. The fact that somebody else can reset your body is a crazy thing to think about, because it doesn't happen. People can guide you and help you, but really the work has to be done yourself. But don't let that decision that it didn't work for you at the time let you burn you again in future, because that's what will happen to people, is they'll make decisions, they'll go down the path, seeing consultants, seeing doctors, seeing chiros, and it just doesn't work for them. And they then apply that same paintbrush to everything that they do. So as I say, you can make a change in your life, you can get out of the survival mode, and you can get back into a place where you're able to evolve and able to change and able to improve. But you first need to take care of the lowest hanging fruit before you start looking at all the other factors. So it's like levels to it. There will be a journey involved in it. It will never be a quick fix, and you need to be smart about that. There'll never be a quick fix. There'll be little adjustments and strategies and tactics and fixes that you can make for minor things along the way, and then they add up. Absolutely, there's no question. Like, there is very simple things that you can do to calm a flare up, with movements that you do, with how you address your hydration, with the activities that you pick the days after it, with the behaviors that you choose. Like, there's a lot of stuff you can do with that, but you can't just sit and hope that it's going to get better. And that's a big thing to think about. So nature can only prioritize one or the other. It can only prioritize survival, or it can prioritize evolution. And you need to start deciding which one you are going to let dominate your life at the moment. And it takes time to change, no question, but it is a journey and it can be enjoyable. Now, if you need help getting out of survival mode, if you're getting back into a place where you can evolve, we have space in our Select program. Our Select program is our one-to-one program where you work directly with me. It's a 6-month program, or 24-week long program to be specific. And I'm happy to work alongside you to help you achieve it. I'll lay out the structure. I'll give you the clarity. I'll give you the accountability and the support. But you just need to tick the boxes. So if you're looking to get back on track or to get back into consistent exercise and activities you love, you can shoot me a message on Instagram at RobbieCassidy_. You can shoot me an email at info@themobilitytutor.com, or you can just click the button in the description of this podcast and we can set up a call to chat about it in more detail. But if you've lost your identity, this is kind of the place that you need to start. Let's be honest. You need to make the change, and then you need to know where you're going to. That's simple as. You work on the lowest hanging fruit, you build it up, you take care of the things above it, and then you can really start addressing it. And that's how you change your identity. And that's how you get back your identity of being an active person, being a fit, healthy person. Because if you look at your compass right now, what way are you going? Are you going towards degradation? Are you going towards a life of dependence? Or are you moving towards something that you're independent, longevity, healthy, and fit? You need to make that decision. But that's all I'm going to talk about today. And I hope that it helps you to understand this quote, or how I understood the quote, I guess, in a bit more detail. And as always, I really appreciate you listening in. I appreciate the people who share this, who send it on to friends, family members. It's a great way of kind of getting the podcast out there. And I will be getting on more guests again over the next while. I really do love doing the independent ones. And I love doing the guest podcasts as well. So the solo and the mix is always nice. But that's all from me. If you could, I would love, actually, I should sneak it in there. As I said before on other podcasts, I'm trying to get this up to 1,000 ratings on Spotify and on iTunes, and I'm quite a bit off it at the moment. But if you do get the chance, if you enjoy the podcast and if you've shared it with a friend, I would love if you could go up to the top of the podcast and just give it a 5-star rating, because, as I said, I want to get up to 1,000 5-star ratings, but I'm a good bit off it. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening, and I will chat to you all at the same time next week. Have a good one.